this is my review of Kaitou Joker. Alright, so if you guys have been following me on Twitter, you guys will know that I've actually been looking into trying to review this series for a while, and it's been difficult trying to actually find the series itself. Several of my usual sources haven't worked. They've been in dead end, or I couldn't find the full series. And then eventually I was able to actually find it. I was actually able to find it thanks to one of my subscribers and one of my commenters. So thanks to you for helping. I don't know your name off the top of my head. I will just I'll put your name at the bottom of the screen or something. But in any case, yeah, we found. So in any case, I did find it with some help. So yeah, and this series is very much a Phantom Thief anime. That's what it is. And case in point, Kaitou Joker loosely translates to Miraculous Joker or Phantom Thief Joker. Both are correct, I think. But the story does start with us being introduced to a young boy who is dressed in a ninja outfit, and he's walking down the street when he hears a bunch of people exclaiming on the streets next to him that there's a burglar up on the roof and that he seems to be cornered by the police. At which point we're actually meet Joker himself. So Joker's very much a flamboyant character. He's very much an over the top kind of character, and sure enough, he is very much so, because he's a Phantom Thief. Because Phantom Thieves kind of combine magic tricks with secret tools, and Joker kind of does that as well. And he's actually encountered by Inspector Oriyama, that's it. He's encountered by Inspector Oriyama, who is there with a bunch of police officers, and they're trying to catch Joker. And from their first interaction, we can tell that they have a long-standing history. As we find out, they actually have been around they actually have been going back and forth for quite a while, to the point where Oriyama actually does know all of Joker's tricks. So they do kind of try and corner one another. And it's very clear that Oriyama is trying to catch Joker to make sure that he's not to try to stop him from stealing something. And it's revealed to be this little idol thing that he stole. And through this interaction, which is a very comical interaction, Oriyama and his police officers try to corner Joker, who keeps using his phantom tools to actually counteract all of their stuff. Oriyama actually does have a trick of his own where he throws a series of handcuffs on lassos and manages to nail Joker that way. But Joker then tosses him a fake idol, which is a bit of a pun. So he tosses them a hippo-shaped idol, and while it's called a kaba in Japanese, he asks them to reverse the letters, and it winds up being baka, which is Japanese for idiot. And they all get offended by this, but then Joker uses sleight of hand to uncuff himself, and then proceeds to use a flat deck of cards that work as a flash ring thing to just kind of blind them all and disappear, and then disappears, and in their panic, the police officers all trample Oriyama, who just kind of gets knocked over and completely bowled over. And they do eventually find him. He's standing on the edge of the building, and they're a little concerned that he's going to fall off. And he even makes a joke, and Joker himself even makes a joke about that. Joker's the Joker. Haha, funny. But in case he then proceeds to escape, and by leaping off the building and then blowing some gum, which is revealed to be one of his phantom tools, and in fact his signature phantom tool, as we find out later in the episode. But he then proceeds to escape using a blue piece of gum and blows it into a balloon, which he then escapes with, proclaiming that he's not just a common burglar, but rather he's the Phantom Thief Joker. Which causes the little boy to kind of look at him with some admiration. At which point it then cuts to him actually planning to steal a thing called the Dragon Gem. So yeah, following that incident where he steals the idol, we are actually introduced to Mr. Canary, who is who's apparently a very famous person in the world of Joker, and of Kaitou Joker, and he's actually meeting with Oriyama as well as his two subordinates, Yangu and Momo, who are both there to actually just to assist, and it's very clear that one of them is the straight man and one of them is the cutesy person, Yangu's the very serious over the top to the point where being over the top. We find out that later. Whereas Momo's a lot more cute and innocent as a character. But in any case, Oniyama meets with them, pointing out that they found another advanced notice about how he's planning to steal the Dragon Gem, which is currently in Kanaeri's possession. But Kanaeri is clearly not worried about this, and we do find out later. And also shortly after it's very difficult because he looks very feminine, but his secretary actually walks in as well and says that they actually got another advance notice, and Oniyama actually does proclaim that they should be the one to actually stop Joker, since they've been countering him for years and know all of his tricks, and obviously Mr. Canary is going to need his help to actually stop him, but Canary reveals that that's actually not the case, and then proceeds to turn on his entire security system, revealing that he has a massive security team comparable to that of a small army, and points out that nobody's going to be able to sneak in, but then notices that two people seem to be playing a game instead of working, and points out that they need to be scolded later. And the secretary remarks that she'll get right on that. But as it turns out, but in any case, after that, he then proceeds to have the three police officers escorted out. But as they're leaving, Kanaeri's secretary actually hands them a box of their apparently famous cookies, which Oniyama doesn't really want to accept, but Momo proceeds to take anyway. With Yangu and Oniyama actually scolding her for her childishness, and point out that they don't really have time for snacks. But in any case, later that night, we actually do see them still playing the game, and at which point we actually meet the young boy again, who has actually snuck into the building for reasons we actually find out later. And then proceeds to go into the treasure room where the Dragon Gem actually is. And he proceeds to use a gum blow dart to actually cover up the camera so that it doesn't look like the camera is out. And basically just obscured the camera's vision so that he can successfully steal the gem. But as he's going to the gem's pedestal, he accidentally steps on a pressure plate, which opens a giant pitfall, and he almost falls in. He catches himself, barely, but he almost falls in. At which point the secretary walks in, and eventually the young boy does quickly figure out that this secretary isn't who they actually say they are. And it's heavily implied through their language and how they're actually interacting with the young boy that this person is quite clearly Joker. It's quite clearly the main character of the series, pretending to be this woman and is actually wearing a disguise. But eventually the guards do notice that the camera is out and do gather all of their remaining forces to actually gather. At which point Joker actually grabs the young boy, and they barge in to see Mr. Canary, who actually scolds them for not being diligent, and tells them that they actually need to be a lot more careful in the future, or Joker's going to break in and actually steal the Dragon Gem from them. At which point the security guards actually apologize and go right back to work. At which point it's revealed that this is actually that Mr. Canary is actually Joker himself, and then tells the young boy that he can actually come out of hiding now. It is revealed that this is actually another one of his phantom tools, which we actually find out from the thief Silverhand, who doesn't physically appear in the episode, but does go on to explain how Joker's tool actually works. As it turns out, it's called image gum, and the way it works is that and this isn't explained in the episode or really explained by any sort of logic, but the way it works is that he blows a bubble, And if it's pink, if it's blue, as we saw earlier in the episode, it turns into a balloon. It turns into a balloon, and Joker's able to use it to fly around. Whereas if it's pink, he can use it to disguise himself as somebody else. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for the latter one, but I'm just gonna willingly go for it because that's what we're going with. But I mean, it's a Phantom Thief anime. Obviously, don't have to explain everything. They just have to explain that he uses sleight of hand and technology. But it is an interesting concept that he's able to use this image gun as his main primary tool. But in case after taking off his disguise, he actually uses a special card, which is actually revealed to be a camera, to actually snap a picture of the treasure room, and then uses that to trick the camera in place of the little boy's gum trick to actually make it look like there's nobody in the room. And then he proceeds to get ready to go in and actually steal the dragon gem, but the little boy actually stops Joker before he can. And despite Joker explaining that he doesn't really care about the little boy's backstory, the little boy explains it anyway. So as it turns out, this little boy's name is actually named Hachi, and the reason he's actually came in there to steal the dragon gem is because, as it turns out, Mr. Canary stole it from his village. So as we find out, and the dragon gem supposedly has the power to bring prosperity to whoever owns it. And Mr. Canary just kind of wandered into the village one day, tricked them, and stole the dragon gem, and the village has been in poor straits ever since. So Hachi is trying to steal back the dragon gem so that he can return it to his village. But Joker isn't really interested in returning it to the village, pointing out that he's actually just trying to bring it back to actually just steal it so he can sell it. Which Hachi does point out doesn't make him any better than a burglar, but as Joker explains, the difference between a burglar and a Phantom Thief is that the Phantom Thief actually leaves a calling card to give advance notice. As it turns out, as we find out earlier in the episode, he actually does so on several different occasions. But then he proceeds to pull out another one of his gadgets, a kind of like a X-ray scanner or something like that he wears over his eyes, but he uses it to analyze the pedestal that the dragon gem is in, and after a brief scan of it, concludes that there's actually an explosive inside, and that it would be impossible to actually take it out without severely injuring themselves. At which point Hachi points out that there has to be some sort of way, but he accidentally sets off a trap, and it's revealed that there's actually a painting of Mr. Canary in the room who actually tries to blast Hachi, and Joker knocks him out of the way and gets his leg badly injured. At which point the alarm goes off, and Canary and his entire squad try to convene on the treasure room to try and catch Joker, pointing out that realizing that he's most likely the one in the treasure room and that they actually need to steal it. So they immediately rush in, and Hachi points out that he and Joker actually need to flee, but Joker points out that they shouldn't flee yet because they still haven't stolen the dragon gem. And when Hachi points out that it's impossible for them to point out that Joker said it was impossible, he merely said that it was impossible to get it out of its display case because it's rigged to explode. He never said it was impossible to steal. At which point, when they barge in, they notice that there's actually two pedestals in the middle of the room. And points out, and realizing that one of them is likely Joker, they realize that something is very off since there should be two pedestals. At which point Oniyama actually walks in, revealing that this is actually one of Joker's tricks, and then re-explains how the image gun works to Canary. And then it proceeds to explain that whichever one is actually not the Phantom, is actually not the real one is probably Joker. At which point Canary reveals that the controls to actually open the case are actually in the teddy bear that he carries around, and then and explains that if he presses the button on the teddy bear's nose, that the case will actually explode. However, if he turns it, it'll actually open the case. The case in point, he turns it, and the real one opens, and the fake one stays closed. At which point Oniyama actually is actually impressed and points out that the other one is actually likely Joker, only for Kaneyori to actually pull a gun on Oniyama, revealing that he actually quickly figured out that Oniyama isn't actually Oniyama but Joker in disguise. And sure enough, Oniyama then proceeds to turn back into Joker, and it's revealed that yes, Joker did indeed disguise himself as Oniyama. And then explains how he was actually able to get away with disguising himself as both Oniyama and the secretary. As it turns out, the cookies that they gave Oniyama and his crew were actually laced with a sleeping powder, which caused Momo, Yango, and Oniyama to actually fall asleep. And he actually used the same trick with Kaneyori's secretary earlier, so that he could sneak in and pretend to be the secretary. At which point Joker points out that they shouldn't be underestimated so easily, pointing out that a Phantom Thief can make miracles happen. And then shoots Hachi a glance before ripping off the emblem on his chest and revealing that it's a smoke bomb. And when the smoke clears, everybody is Joker. Literally everybody except Kaneyori has been turned into a Joker. And Kaneyori, realizing that Joker is most likely still in the room, tells them all to keep the door closed, and points out that the last one who's actually remaining is Joker, pointing out that his image gum actually can't last longer than 5 minutes, and that eventually the real Joker will have to show himself. And after a while, 5 minutes do indeed pass, and all of the security guards turn back except for one, and they quickly deduce that the last remaining one is actually Joker, and they close in to actually arrest him, only for it to be revealed that the Joker that's actually lying slumped against the wall is actually Kaneyori, who has been bound and gagged and has been left in the corner of the room. At which point the guards realize they've been tricked, and that the Kaneyori they thought was their boss was actually Joker and Hachi, who escaped using image gum to disguise themselves. At which point they then proceed to get back to head back to Joker's car. At which point the real Kaneyori has since been freed and yells at Oniyama, asking him if another Kaneyori went by recently. And when Oniyama does express confusion, pointing out that he has no idea what Kaneyori is talking about, they then proceed to see Joker and Hachi escaping the Joker mobile, or the Road Joker, as it's actually explained. I didn't actually get the name right, but it's called the Road Joker. But after Kaneyori realizes that he's been tricked and that Joker's escaped with the Dragon Gem, Kaneyori accidentally blows up his mansion in frustration. It's a very comical scene where he accidentally presses the button on the teddy bear's nose, and the case in the back in the treasure room just goes off and blows up his entire mansion. At which point Yangu, Oniyama, and Momo actually give chase after Joker. As Joker and Yangu and Hachi are actually making a break for it, Joker tells Hachi that he can actually keep the Dragon Gem, pointing out that it was actually Hachi that stole the Dragon Gem and not Joker. When Hachi asks for more clarification, pointing out that he's a little bit confused as to why Joker's letting him keep it, especially since it was Joker's idea to steal it in the first place and he was just following Joker's signal. Joker goes on to explain that the real point of keeping a treasure is to steal it yourself, and since Joker didn't do that, that means that Hachi is technically the one who stole the Dragon Gem. At which point Hachi, developing an admiration for Joker, declares that Joker should make him his apprentice, which Joker is a little hesitant on, pointing out that he doesn't really need an apprentice, and also points out that he doesn't really feel like Hachi has what it takes. But as they're kind of arguing back and forth about that, Oniyama and his crew actually catch up and start giving chase after Joker, which Joker points out takes them some doing, because as it turns out, the Road Joker is actually supposed to be a very fast car. So the fact that Oniyama and his group are able to actually keep after it is a little surprising to him. But it's also revealed that Joker's car actually has some gadgets of its own. Case in point, he then proceeds to use one of the gadgets to actually leap over the guardrail on the highway that they're being chased on and onto a lower road. However, it's revealed that Yangu's police car actually comes with gadgets of its own and is actually a modified police car. Case in point, it has its own grappling hook, which it then uses to chase after Joker by grabbing onto the guardrail and going over the road, same as Joker did, and then proceeds to give chase. However, and throughout this entire sequence of Oniyama and Joker chasing after one another and Oniyama trying to catch up to Joker, there's just this really funny scene where Hachi hasn't quite given up on trying to be Joker's apprentice and can't quite read the room, as it were, so he keeps bringing it up even though Joker tells him to knock it off because it's really not the time. But eventually Oniyama does manage to chase Joker into an abandoned building, which Joker then drives into, and Oniyama, believing that he's actually finally cornered Joker, then proceeds to get out and order him to keep his hands up. Except no, because as it turns out, Joker actually parked his base in the abandoned building, the Air Joker, which is revealed to be the giant Zeppelin thing. At which point Joker proceeds to escape in his giant Zeppelin, and Oniyama is a little annoyed that he managed to fall right into Joker's trap. At which point I'm now saved back in Joker's base, as it were. Hachi actually does continue his pestering of Joker to actually try and have Joker make him his apprentice, but Joker is still refusing, pointing out that he doesn't like tedious things, and points out that training Hachi would actually be too tedious for him. But then case in point, he actually walks into the base and it's revealed that his base is actually a mess, because he doesn't like cleaning up, because as he's explained, he doesn't like tedious things, and he actually hasn't cleaned up after himself. And Hachi, seeing the state that the room is in, then proceeds to clean it up lickety-split and also make curry while he's at it. And after seeing that, Joker does a full 180 and declares that Hachi should be his apprentice, which Hachi is a little surprised about, but then Joker decides to show him something and takes him out to the front of the Zeppelin to see the overview of the world, and explains that this is the world that the Phantom Thieves accompany, and that obviously being a miracle master in the making, he's actually more than worthy of actually seeing such a sight. So yeah, this episode was interesting. So first things first, I should explain, this episode introduces a lot of characters very quickly, so it can be a little confusing. Usually you're supposed to just stick to like one or two, but this episode does kind of explain how does kind of show off all the major characters at once, or at least all the ones that we need to know right now. So yeah, it is a little confusing keeping up with all these characters because there's a lot of them, but I do like the premise of this series. It is a very interesting premise. I haven't really seen a Phantom Thief anime. There was one I know that came out last year that apparently wasn't very good because it didn't really bother trying to explain it and just kind of used borderline magic some of the time. It's like actual magic, like things never really make sense and they're all magical tools. But here it's a proper Phantom Thief anime. Joker's a proper Phantom Thief. He actually uses this gadgets and explains most of what he has. So yeah, it is a very interesting premise for a series, and I am glad that someone actually suggested it to me. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be continuing to review this in the coming weeks, but for right now, yeah, that's my review of the first episode of Kaitou Joker. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. Be sure to check out my Patreon if you want to help support me. It's only a couple bucks a month. It helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks, and I'm always saying thanks, so by all means, go check that out. Also, be sure to check out my Twitch down in the description below if you want to support me that way. I stream every Sunday, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, so if you guys want to go see that, by all means, go ahead. Link is down in the description, or you can Google Zack Switch over on twitch.tv. And finally, if you want to see more content from me, then be sure to check out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent video. It may or may not be this one. whereas the bottom video is a video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So, if you want to try something new, or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both of those videos out. But, regardless of whether or not you do any or all of those things, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!